Good evening. My name is Cynthia McKenna and this is Africa. Now class, where did we leave off last week? The Ugandan elections. And in the Ugandan elections, you can only guess who won.
Candidate Yoweri Museveni Kaguta, having obtained the highest number of votes in the election and the votes cast in his favor being more than 50% of the valid votes cast at the election. The Electoral Commission declares Yoweri Museveni Kaguta elected President of the Republic of Uganda.
It's not that surprising, is it? Yoweri Museveni won the elections for a sixth term, lucky number 6. And he won with 58% of the votes, while Bobi Wine had 35% of the votes. Although Bobi Wine says the votes were rigged.
In many cases, people were not even allowed to vote, but even in areas where people were allowed to vote, it is evident that the results are projecting more votes than the registered voters.
And as for the people's reactions, you know how it goes. There are those who are celebrating and those who are crying.
I'm feeling very okay that President Museveni has won the election.
But there are a lot of people in this country who do not trust him. And at a ramshackle pool hall in Kampala, Bobi Wine supporters said they couldn't stomach another 5 years of a president they call granddad.
We don't like him. He's cheated us.
The election wasn't fair. This guy, they rigged the election. We know. They rigged them. Yeah. They rigged the election.
As many people accuse President Yoweri Museveni of rigging the elections, this is what he had to say about it.
On account of the thumbprint identification machines, this may turn out to be the most cheating-free election in the 58 years of Uganda's independence.
And as for Bobi Wine's situation, he cannot be reached, and not by choice.
We are run short of food supplies, but when my wife tried to go to our garden to pick food, she was assaulted by the military. The only practical plan now is to inform the world, to see that fellow citizens of the world can help us.
They're just here like mannequins. They can't talk to you. They can't say a thing, which is very disturbing. But our lawyers will let you know how we are going to proceed on these matters.
The lawyers are still having their press conference over there, and a company of troops have appeared from a thicket of trees and walked directly past us. And I have to say, the atmosphere is really intimidating.
Bobi Wine is under house arrest with an 18-month-old baby, their niece. And let's be clear here, if you have to put your opposition leader under house arrest, it's not a free and fair election. And do they need that many troops? I mean, some were even hiding in the thickets. But Bobi Wine is not lying down. He has his lawyers going to the High Court to challenge the house arrest.
So we want a declaration from court that the private property of Honorable Kyagulanyi is not a prison, is not a gazetted detention place, and if there are any lawful charges against him, he should be detained in a place which is duly gazetted under the laws.
So in short, we have two political rivals here. We have the president who is against any foreign interference. Then we have the opposition leader who is begging foreigners to come forward and help him in his time of need. But the main victim here is a citizen of Uganda. Because if it's true that these elections were rigged, then they were rigged out of their democratic right. And during the violence, they are the ones who suffered most. Their lives were changed.
They told me that the bullet is in the spinal cord and that I will never walk again. The chances of walking again are 5%.
As we continue to talk about the post-election violence, I think we should talk about a country that hasn't garnered as much attention as it should have, the Central African Republic. Now, the Central African Republic have gone through a lot. Back in 2013, they went through a civil war due to the same post-election violence, which was between two main militia groups. We have the Seleka, which was mainly the Muslims, and the anti-Balaka, which was mainly the Christians. But then in 2019, they signed a peace agreement. But later on, rebellious groups started coming up, and they became a menace to the government because the government had to give them funds so that they can set down arms. Now, when the elections happened in 2020, these same rebellious groups came forward and made it impossible for many citizens of Central African Republic to vote.
According to the National Election Authority, of 1.8 million registered voters, fewer than 700,000 could cast their ballot. They say that many were destroyed and that several hundred stations closed because of the threat of armed militia.
Russia and Rwanda in to save the day. They sent in troops which made it possible for many citizens to go and vote. And this led to Faustin Todera to become a president for the second term. But the opposition says they cannot accept these results because of the number of people who came in to vote.
We will have requests which show that certain figures are false. And we have a general request showing that these elections are not organized under conditions which make them credible and acceptable. So it will be up to the Constitutional Court to take the decisions, depending on the seriousness of the facts, that we will make available to them.
It seems like many of the people here are walking on eggshells because they fear a repeat of what happened in 2013. I mean, a feeling we know too well as Kenyans, am I right?
We lost so much. We lost many of our parents, people who were important to us. That's why we don't want that anymore in our country.
As you know, we have to talk about the coronavirus. South Africa has become the first African country to have a COVID-19 variant, which is very different from the one in the UK.
South Africa, where another new variant of coronavirus is causing alarm. Scientists say initial evidence suggests it's more infectious than other versions of the virus, and doctors are reporting more young people who are seriously ill.
So the main fear here is that this new COVID-19 variant won't be affected by the vaccines.
I think there's reasonable reason to be concerned. Should people be frightened right now? We don't know. And we're probably going to have an answer as soon as about 3 to 4 weeks from now, both from the laboratory and possibly even from the clinical trial.
But it's not looking good.
The first lab tests suggest antibodies not from a vaccine but from a previous infection are 10 times less effective against the mutant version of the virus. That might make the vaccine less effective, and people who recovered from the disease may be vulnerable to reinfection, but doctors are cautious.
I guess we can all hope. Well, Audrey Peterson says it best.
This thing is real, it kills, and let's just be hopeful that this vaccine is it, and then we might get it free as quick as possible as the people overseas.
While in Zimbabwe, the foreign minister, Sibusiso Moyo, has succumbed to COVID-19.
Zimbabwe's Foreign Affairs Minister Sibusiso Moyo has died. He succumbed to COVID-19 in a hospital in the capital, Harare. Moyo was an army chief during the November 2017 coup. He became the face of then President Robert Mugabe's ousting, appearing on TV to announce he had been overthrown.
All the while, Rwanda is reimposing their 15-day lockdown.
Rwanda on Monday reimposed a 15-day lockdown in the capital, Kigali, as part of measures to curb the spread of COVID-19. Now, this came following a cabinet meeting chaired by President Paul Kagame to assess the country's COVID-19 status. The measures have been taken following a trend of new cases of the virus in the capital, Kigali. The country has so far registered a total of 11,032 cases, with 142 deaths and 7,363 recoveries, according to data compiled by World Meter. Earlier, the Ministry of Education in Rwanda closed all nursery, primary and secondary schools in the city of Kigali.
That's all for the highlights when it comes to the coronavirus. Let's go to Twitter check. Okay, let's check out what's trending on Twitter. The rumor of the death of former government minister Simeon Nyachai had many Kisiis shook. We are here to verify Mr. Nyachai, according to the reports by the family, is not dead, but is in hospital in Nairobi. So let's leave that hashtag for all the businessmen. The hashtag Ruto Return Our Money is trending, and with all this talk about corruption sparked by our own president, the deputy president is under fire because the hustler, according to @Kasakala M, owns a home worth 1.2 billion, coming complete with an artificial lake. And @S Nyamao calls Ruto the Messi of Kenyan politics. You know, when you build a brand, you have to live by it. Well, that's all from Twitter. Now to Out of Time. Tunisia has been under a 6-day protest, mainly because of the crippling economy in the country, which has been hit hard during the COVID-19 period. Now, these young people are not only fighting that, they're also fighting joblessness and police brutality. And they say they're not scared of the curfew or the COVID-19, mainly because hunger will get them fast. Desperation is a terrible thing. On to the biggest news in the world. Joe Biden has been sworn in as the next president of the United States. And here is our shopping list from Africa to Joe Biden, courtesy of the Kenyan Daily Nation. Africa would like the following. We would like the United States to rejoin the World Health Organization and continue funding the institute. We'd also like them to join the Paris Agreement and help us fight against climate change. We would like them to send back the troops which they had taken out as they continue to fight terrorism in countries like Somalia. We would also like them to give out a foreign aid. Now, I'm not a very big fan of the last one. I think as Africa, even if we do not have much, we should at least have our pride. Well, that's it from me. My name is Cynthia McKenna. This is Africa. See you next week, same time, same day on This Is the Day. Aki, this shopping list for the US is long.